Recently there's been a big question in my mind, and that is, why doesn't Maisto make sedans anymore? In this review I want to present to you a sedan that Maisto made around 10 years ago, which is the first generation Mercedes-Benz CLS. Arguably the best looking sedan that Maisto has ever made, because the only other Maisto sedan that I can think of right now is the W220 S500, which I'm not a fan of. So clearly Maisto hasn't made that many sedans, and it's been a couple years since they've made another one. This is a version of the CLS that does not come with a sunroof. Imagine if Maisto had done the version with the sunroof. Wouldn't that be cool? Now before we begin, I thought I'd show you guys the box of this particular model, which is a dealer edition. Now what does dealer edition mean? When a model car is sold as dealer edition, it means that the store where it was sold was actually a place where they sell real cars, which means an actual car dealership. So in some car dealerships, not only do they sell the real cars, but they also sell the car models associated with them. And these car dealerships generally have a rule where they don't like to advertise for the manufacturer of these model cars, and they'd like to have all the attention to the car brand itself. And that's when Maisto, Willy, and all these other model car manufacturers design certain special kinds of boxes which do not have their branding, but instead only the branding of the car manufacturer. So when this car was sold on eBay, the retailer simply slapped a Maisto label so that he himself would not get confused as to who the manufacturer of this particular car was. The CLS-Klasse was a project by Mercedes-Benz to design a type of car that would blend the sportiness of a two-door coupe with the luxury of a four-door sedan. They called it the four-door coupe. Designed in 2001 by Michael Fink, who is also responsible for the Maybach 57 and 62, the car debuted in 2003 as the Vision CLS concept and began to be sold from October 2004 to July 2010, with over 170,000 units produced during this period. One strange fact about the CLS-Klasse is that the current generation is actually a lower number than this predecessor, because the first generation CLS is also known as the W219, while its successor bears the code name W218. Sometimes these are also referred to as C219 and C218 instead. A word of warning, there's two versions of this car made by Maisto. One which has the rear door windows, and one without. Be careful when buying or you might get screwed over. Now there already are a couple of videos on YouTube about the Scale 118 Maisto Mercedes-Benz CLS, however, none of them have been in this color. So I figured I'd be making a review about this one, which is the Mercedes-Benz CLS in iridium silver, with a black interior. The CLS is notable for its use of a prominent bone line on the side profile of the vehicle, which Maisto has perfectly replicated. As you can see, it starts from here and goes all the way to there. The CLS comes with a variety of either V6 or V8 engines, but with a top speed limited to 250 km per hour on all of those models. Personally, I have two problems with this car in real life. One, the fact that there's a center console in the back which cannot be removed means that this car cannot be used as a 5-passenger sedan. And two, the fact that the windows are so high it sort of takes away from the viewing pleasure for the passengers inside, especially children. So this is my personal conclusion, but I think that the CLS is more style over substance, because it is one of the sportiest and most elegant looking sedans out there. However, when you're inside it, those small and high windows kind of take away from the viewing pleasure. This particular car is out of production and therefore harder to get, and I'm not just talking about the real one, but I'm also talking about this model. Funny story about this. I bought this car a couple of weeks ago in an eBay auction, and the car's price was sitting at around €1 with 3 days to spare, so I thought, well, this is how most auctions go, and in the last day or even in the last 2 hours, the price is going to skyrocket to 20, 30, or 40 euros. Because if you want to buy this particular model, you have to pay around 40 euros, give or take, because it's out of production, and the few places where you can buy it over eBay tend to have made this car appreciate in value. So I was watching the bid, and in the last 2 minutes or so, because I've bid on a lot of Warhammer figures in the past, so I know how this whole eBay bidding works, I waited until the last 2 minutes, and then when I bid, I was outbid, of course, and I thought that my maximum bid is going to be around 30 euros. So I set it to 30. And then I won with the winning bid, which is mine, being 11 euros. And then I had to pay like 9 euro shipping. So I actually got this car for less than 20 euros, which is insane. I had so much luck. And this should be something that should motivate you to participate in auctions again, because I know that a lot of you are like probably thinking, well, auctions never work out for me. I mean, there's always someone who's going to outbid me in the last second. I'd rather just filter eBay out for things where I can directly purchase a model. But trust me, sometimes you're going to have the stroke of luck like I did and get a model that essentially would have cost twice the price for half of it. When I say that the CLS is one of the best looking sedans Maisto has ever made, I mean it. I mean, when you first take a look at this model, you think that this is clearly a Norev and not a Maisto or some budget model. And I'll get to that in a second, but let's first start this review by taking a closer look at the front of the vehicle. Up front we have the chrome Mercedes-Benz star in the middle, with 4 chrome slats on either side making up the front grille. We have a German license plate that says SMB219, with Maisto going into the same amount of detail as on their other Mercedes-Benz cars, but using the right type of license plate because S stands for Stuttgart, which is where Mercedes-Benz is headquartered in Baden-Württemberg. And that German state is also featured in the emblem right next to it, which is barely visible here, but that's definitely accurate. And MB obviously stands for Mercedes-Benz, and right now I'm actually noticing this, but the 219 is its generation, which is the W219. So a very accurate license plate. Here's a closer look at the headlight. It's entirely made out of chrome. And there are 2 pegs, one down here and the other one up here. They don't really bother me. What bothers me more is this horizontal like line over here, which looks like a scratch, but it actually isn't. This is also featured on the real car. You can see how the other headlight looks over here. You can see that same scratch, more or less, but it's not. You have the xenon bulb, and you have an orange, I guess this is a blinker up here. Indentation for the headlight washers. And down here you have the fog light, which is interesting because this is an actual light here, rather than just some paint. So props to Maisto for that one. Up here we have the Mercedes-Benz logo. Let's see if I can get it to focus. It's about as sharp as I can get it. And this badge replaces where the Mercedes-Benz star would have been on earlier generation models of the 1990s, I believe. But it is a sticker, a reflective one at that. So that's pretty good. The car's side profile is where you realize what Mercedes-Benz really meant when they advertised this car as a 4-door coupe instead of a sedan. You have the flowing lines from the front all the way to the back, giving this car a kind of elegance that no other sedan has. There's nothing boxy about this car, including the doors themselves, whose frames are curved. Here's a close-up of the rims. You can see that the car has Dunlop SP Sport tires. We have a brake disc and brake caliper, which says Mercedes-Benz. And I have to say that I really like these 5-spoke rims. I believe these are 19-inch aluminum alloy rims. The Mercedes-Benz star is in the middle, surrounded by 5 lug nuts that have recesses which are dark. And you even have this little thing here where you would put the air into the tire. So, plenty of detail for a budget car. The windows are surrounded by a chrome trim, but this is not really visible when the rest of the car is also in iridium silver. But it is more visible in the other colors that this car comes in, which is anthracite gray, obsidian black, it's a kind of a metallic black, and a dark blue color, which is very rare. I think I saw one going for 60 euros the other day on eBay. Another nice detail is the fact that the door handles are separate pieces, which means that you can use a door opening tool to open these doors rather than using your fingernails. But let's first take a look at the back of this car. Perhaps the only disappointment of this model is the fact that there's a big black peg on each of the taillights over here and here. However, if you just look at the car like this from behind, they're not really noticeable. And if you look at the car from the side, you're so distracted by its sleek shape and flowing lines that I don't think you'll notice the taillight peg at all. But moving back to the car's rear, we have the Mercedes-Benz logo right up here, above the trunk handle, which is supposed to be made out of chrome, but is just matte silver paint. Another thing you might notice is that it doesn't say what type of CLS this is. But I can tell you this vehicle is a CLS 500 rather than a CLS 350, and I'll show you exactly why when we go to the engine bay. But first let's talk about these dual exhausts over here. They have black interiors. This is not me using a Sharpie to do that. This has already been done, so props to Maisto on that one as well. Apart from the annoying peg, I have to say that the taillights are done exactly like they look on the real car. They fit with the car body nicely and have plenty of detail in terms of the individual layers of the glass, so there's nothing to complain here. Now let's open up the hood, shall we? The hood stays open as well, so that is useful. And looking at the hood, what we can see is that although it is made out of one giant plastic piece, this actually has a decent amount of detail because a lot of stuff here is painted. When you look at this engine, you will realize this is a CLS 500 and not a CLS 350 because it has a V8 rather than a V6. And the way you can tell that this is a V8 is because of these four, I guess these are spark plugs, I don't know, I'm not sure. But on either side of the engine, of the two engine blocks, you'll see that there are 4 sections rather than 3. In fact, the V6 looks completely different to this. I'll show you a picture just about now. So returning to our engine, another nice detail over here is the warning label on this air intake hose. I mean, which other Maisto does that? You have another warning label over here. And a little more detail over here. So, I don't have anything to complain about this engine. I believe it has more detail than the engine of my SL550, which is also a V8. And here's what the engine sounds like. But the reason why you should get this Maisto sedan is not because of the fact that the front door opens, but because the rear door opens as well, which is extremely rare for a sedan made by a budget die-casting company. The cool thing about the CLS is that it actually has pillarless doors. This is something that is not really common in the automotive industry. So let's look at the interior, shall we? The only thing that I don't like about this car is that it has a black interior. I wished Maisto had put the cream color interior in every single version of this car, regardless of the outer color, but they decided to spice up the interiors as well, because next to the cream interior you also have this black interior, and then you have a dark red, I think, interior. And the color combination is actually done at random, because I've seen videos of black CLSs with a cream interior and black CLSs with a black interior. However, I haven't seen any silver CLSs with a cream interior, so that's just me nitpicking. Anyway, we still have a lot of detail here, even though it's just a budget model. For instance, the center console is surrounded by a wood trim veneer, which also includes the steering wheel. The steering wheel has the Benz logo. You can even see the horn symbols on the steering wheel, as well as the buttons on either side of it. The buttons here, to the left, are colored in, which is nice. And the instrument panel is just a sticker. However, you have the speedometer, rev meter, and fuel gauge represented. The dorsal branding says Mercedes-Benz. And if you look at the passenger side, you can immediately see the center console here with all the buttons, the LCD screen in the middle, gear shifter, the individual grills on the fans, and here's another look at the seats. They have the leather pattern. At the back of the sedan, because it is in black, there's not much to see, but one thing you can notice is that the rear center console is replicated in the same fashion as in the real car. It's almost like you can pull this back to see if there's anything inside. And we also have seat belts, which even feature the belt buckles, but they're not colored in. I'll see if I can get a better shot from the other side. But before I go to the other side, let me just show you the center console again. The rear center console with the fans. And you even have this extra space on the back of the seat where you could put your knees, because this is a little tight fit considering that it's a 4-door coupe. Here's a look at the back from the other side. As a matter of fact, the rear center console even has some veneer or wood grain detailing up there, so it's not entirely black. Here's the belt buckle I was talking about earlier. I believe I could color this in if I wanted to. The front wheels swivel from side to side, and they stay that way, which is good for a Maisto. And the steering wheel corresponds to this. As you can see, this car has a lot of opening parts. And with all the parts open, another thing I can show you is the fact that this car has front and rear suspension. Looking at the bottom of the car, you can see that the drive shaft is made out of chrome, and the car even features a heat shield, which is this material here. It says Mercedes-Benz CLS Scale 118 by Maisto, made in Thailand. This was probably before the production went over to China. And what else is there to say? I mean, you got some more detail over here. So I'm quite happy with the way this car looks, both top and bottom. So I hope you guys liked this review of the Scale 118 2006 Maisto Mercedes-Benz CLS 500 Dealer Edition. And I'll see you next time. This is Imperial Diecast signing out.